Welcome to Green Skill for Cities, lesson number 1, General Concepts on Urban Areas and Nature-Based Solutions. This lesson will cover general concepts on climate change and climate change-related challenges, sustainable development goals, urban densification, biodiversity, urban ecology, natural capital, and ecosystem services. In addition, nature-based solutions will be introduced, showing their beneficial aspects and the role of plants in urban design. Section 1. General Concepts. Climate change is the most significant challenge to achieve sustainable development. World leaders and environmental activists declare that it is necessary to take immediate action to face it. The European Union has set targets for reducing its greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. Both mitigation and adaptation strategies are needed to manage climate change in the long run. The International Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, is the United Nations body for assessing the science related to climate change. The 2022 IPCC report has a strong focus on the interactions among the couple systems climate, ecosystems, and human society. These interactions are the basis of emerging risks for climate change, ecosystem degradation, and biodiversity loss. At the same time, they offer opportunities for the future. Global assessments of the impacts of climate change focus on large studies, multi-species, meta-analysis, and large reviews. For this reason, they can be assessed with higher confidence than regional studies, which may often rely on smaller studies that have more limited data. In the 2022 IPCC report, confidence levels reflect uncertainty in the attribution of the observed impacts of climate change. As observed in the report, climate change has already altered terrestrial, freshwater, and ocean ecosystems at global scale, with multiple impacts evident at regional and local scales, where there is sufficient literature to make an assessment. Today, we face major challenges related to climate change: energy, unsustainable and unhealthy cities, degradation of ecosystems. Climate change-related extreme events cause huge economic losses, and there is high confidence that this trend will increase in the future. According to the European Union, building sector accounts for 35% of the European greenhouse gases emission and 40% of the European energy consumption. Unsustainable growth in cities is causing heat waves, representing more than 60% of all deaths from natural disasters. 4 million of premature deaths worldwide are due to fine particles in the air. Degradation of ecosystems is impacting also water purification, as 20% of urban drinking water is polluted. The United Nations set and adopted 17 goals for the sustainable development, also known as the Global Goals, with the aim to take immediate action to end poverty and protect the planet. Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, are integrated, which means that they recognize that an action in one area will affect the outcomes in another, and that the development must balance social, economic, and environmental sustainability. In particular, we want to focus on SDG number 11, Sustainable Cities and Communities, SDG number 13, Climate Action, and SDG number 15, Life on Land. Sustainable Cities and Community focuses on making cities resilient, green, inclusive, and prosperous. Climate action involves adaptation and mitigation measures against climate change. Life on Land aims at protecting biodiversity and natural habitats. Urban densification affects mobility, land use, social equity, economy, green spaces, morphology, and energy use. In all these areas, there are both positive and negative impacts. For example, urban densification reduces the overall emissions due to transportation, as services are concentrated in one specific area where most of citizens live. At the same time, such concentration. Key international regulations to support, restore, and manage biodiversity are the Convention on Biological Diversity, released in 1992, Council Directive 9243 EECC, released in 1992, the World Summit on Sustainable Development 2002, the European Green Deal 2019, and the European Biodiversity Strategies for 2030, released in 2020. Most of the regulations provide the knowledge and rules to manage, support, promote, and restore biodiversity of natural and anthropic habitats. Urban ecology studies the interaction and relationships at the urban scale. Cities are human-dominated ecosystems where natural and artificial elements coexist. Plants, animals, microbiota, human and human artifacts in cities, in fact, establish new relationships. The introduction of natural elements in urban environments allows the establishment of multi-trophic interactions, that means interactions that link several trophic levels, including plants, first trophic level, herbivores, second trophic levels, and predators, parasites or pathogens, third trophic levels, and beyond. Resilient and sustainable cities can be achieved through the restoration of ecological processes and functions, the increase of biodiversity in terms of quantity and quality, and the equilibrium of biological community. We name natural capital the available stocks of renewable and non-renewable natural resources which support human life. Ecosystem services are the goods and services provided by the ecosystems that directly and indirectly contribute to human well-being. According to the Ministry of the Environment, our economic prosperity and well-being depend on the good state of natural capital. Loss of biodiversity can weaken an ecosystem, compromising the provision of such ecosystem services. Ecosystem services are an important support to biodiversity, and the regulation of ecological cycles are also important to provide food, medicines, and raw material. Ecosystem services are an important cultural source, for example, religious, educational, aesthetic, and recreational source. Ecosystem services play a relevant role in achieving the UN Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. In addition to achieve 41 targets across 12 SDGs, ecosystem services disclose opportunities for synergistic outcomes across multiple SDGs. For example, local climate and air quality regulation support SDG number 3, good health and well-being, SDG number 11, sustainable cities and communities, and number 13, climate action. Moderation of extreme events supports SDG number 2, Zero Hunger, 6, Clean Water and Sanitation, number 13, Climate Action, and Life on Land. All the ecosystem services like the provision of food, clean air, water, and resources like wood or medicines can only be provided by healthy ecosystems and play a crucial role in support. Here you can watch a video about ecosystem services. We name ecosystem disservices the negative effects of nature on human well-being. A few examples include the presence of invasive alien species, the damage on infrastructures or traffic obstruction, allergies due to plants. Section number 2. Introduction to nature. Nature-based solutions are solutions that are inspired or supported by nature, which are cost-effective and simultaneously provide environmental, social, and economic benefits. In addition, they help build resilience. Such solutions bring more and more diverse nature and natural features and processes into cities, landscapes, and seascapes through locally adapted, resource-efficient, and systemic interventions. Nature-based solutions support major European Union policies priority, in particular the European Green Deal, biodiversity strategy and climate adaptation strategies as a way to foster biodiversity and make Europe more climate resilient. A green infrastructure includes natural, semi-natural, and artificial networks of multifunctional ecological systems within, around, and between urban areas. Waterways, woodlands, wildlife habitats, greenways, parks, and other natural areas. Potential components of a green infrastructure include core areas of high biodiversity value or outside protected areas containing large, healthy ecosystems. Restored habitats, wildlife corridors, artificial features to assist wildlife movements, buffered zones, and multifunctional zones. In summary, MBS contribute to the protection or restoration of natural ecosystems. They provide ecosystem services, bring benefits to the environment, and create or restore multi-trophic networks. Plus, they are key to connect natural and not only people, but also urban inhabitants can benefit from nature-based solutions. MBS mitigate temperature during summertime, regulate water flow, contribute to air quality, stock greenhouse gases, improve mental health, increase biodiversity and value. Nature-based solutions are a source of food and medicines and have cultural significance. They are important for recreation and tourism and for improving water and soil quality. Nature-based solutions are great to provide habitats for wildlife and fishes. Green areas enhance biodiversity by hosting plant species. Nature-based solutions mitigate floods. Crowns reduce the impact of heavy rain on soil. Nature-based solutions make also the urban context aesthetically pleasing. Nature-based solutions can reduce soil erosion. Plants' roots hold the ground. Nature-based solutions add the climate change mitigation. Plants are a key element in the carbon storage process. Nature-based solutions are a good groundwater recharge and discharge. Woodland soils and tree roots increase water storage and reduce runoff. Tree roots take up water and waterborne compounds, stabilize soils, prevent sedimentation, and protect river banks. Plants in urban design play two important functions. They can make an environment more comfortable and pleasant, and they can mitigate pollution and climate change effects. This can be achieved provided that they are located in the right place, the most proper species are selected, and the right maintenance is applied. This scheme, designed by WWF, shows that to help limit global temperature increase to 1.5 Celsius, the United Kingdom must reduce greenhouse gases emissions to net zero. The WWF's report, Keeping It Cool, provides a pathway to achieve that by 2045. This figure shows the combination of stress sources that contribute to climate change. Climate threats, for example, UV, flood, extreme temperatures, biotic threats, for example, virus, fungi, parasites, soil threats, for example, poor nutrients, salinity, and anthropogenic threats, for example, herbicides, pesticides, and microplastics. Climate change affects the soil-plant system. High temperatures are harmful for plants and microbial activities. Droughts affect the plant's physiological functions as well as floods, which can deposit pathogens and pollutants, affect aeration and soil fertility, and decrease nutrient absorption. Lastly, salinization affects microbial activity and plants' physiology. To resume, plants and nature-based solutions help to increase resilience by reducing heat loss in winter and cooling buildings in summer, decrease heat stress in urban contexts, reduce flood risk, and ensure well-functioning ecosystems by restoring and preserving ecosystems. Urban green areas are important to enhance and protect biodiversity. To do that, we can choose to plant feeding plants for pollinator, feeding plants for birds and little mammals, It's important to use native plants to protect the local biodiversity. Any species must be avoided. In urban contexts, plants are useful to reduce pollutions by reducing carbon dioxide concentration, as forests are department stores where carbon naturally accumulates. Increasingly, private companies plant a certain number of trees in urban environments to offset the emissions deriving from some of their activities. Plants are also useful to reduce the atmospheric and acoustic pollution. In general, plants' distribution is influenced by primary factors such as light, temperature, altitude, water, chemical elements, and activities of organisms. Plants' distribution is also affected by secondary factors such as climate, physiography, mother rock compositions, and soil. We name hardiness zone a defined geographical area in which a certain category of plants can grow and withstand the minimum temperatures of. This map shows the anthropogenic biomes distributions in the world, which are croplands, villages, urban, wildlands, forested, and rangeland. Also, this map shows the distribution of the anthropogenic biomes in the world, adding the percentage of each of them. A team of biologists brought together by the WWF developed a scheme that divides the terrestrial area into biogeographical realms called ecozones, and these into ecoregions, characterized by a main biome, also called the main habitat type. Each ecoregion is an ecologically and geographically defined area, smaller than a bioregion, which is smaller than a biogeographic. This image shows the altitudinal zones, which influence the plant composition. This image starts with the sea level and ends at 3,000 meters above the sea level. Thank you for listening to this lecture. Now we have a glossary illustrating the meaning of the most important terms that we've discussed during the lesson.